Sheikh Dr. Rafaa Halabi is a respected Druze leader from Mount Carmel in Israel. He is a passionate advocate for peace and international cooperation, has been honored with multiple prestigious awards and honorary doctorates for his contributions to cultural understanding and humanitarian efforts. In 2013, he was recognized by the Waldenberg International College for his significant contribution to human history. Dr. Rafaa Halabi has received honorary titles from the Al-Hafez Academy for Culture, Literature, and Arts, Egypt, the Naharine International Cultural Academy, the American International Academy, and an international organization based in Warsaw, where he serves as the organization's official representative in Israel. In addition, he has been repeatedly recognized as Person of the Year by international organizations for his efforts in promoting peace and strengthening global communities.
Greetings. Once again, we are meeting with the respected women from the ALLATRA organization who are doing incredible work and continue to raise important issues publicly in a very humane way. They truly care about humanity. They care about our planet so that the world in which we live will not be destroyed. And that's a wonderful thing. I welcome you to my humble home in Daliyat al-Karmel, the home of Dr. Rafaa Halabi, and of course, Daliyat al-Karmel in Israel. We are proud to be Druze and to live in the state of Israel, where we do a lot to protect the land of Israel, since we live here in freedom, equality, and brotherhood. We live in wonderful conditions with our brothers, the people of Israel, and we will continue to live together forever. However, there are people and organizations in the world, as well as serious problems, such as those we uncovered and what was shown here on the screen, the situation in Siberia, almost a month ago. So, we talked about the situation, and we talked about solutions. We talked about everything that needs to be done together, all of us together. A problem of such an international scale cannot be solved alone. Therefore, today, we are facing a different problem, one that is likely soaked in blood, because all that runs through the minds of some people is solely a desire to cause harm to human beings, to mortals. To cause harm, not in the way that a criminal or murderer might harm someone. No, this is about an organization that poses a direct threat to small religious denominations and minority groups, just as it was when the Nazis, driven by their ideology, came to power and began exterminating people. They started with the Jews and intended to move on to other peoples, but God cut short all their dreams, and they were scattered across the world. Today, they are in Russia, primarily because their center, RACIRS, is based in Russia. That's the organization causing the same problems the Nazis did. These people, who are doing today the same things the Nazis did, are their disciples, or you could say their successors. They've studied, absorbed, and internalized the most destructive ideology aimed against humanity. Its goal is to make other people cease to exist in our world. They persecute small religious groups for their faith, persecute people for their religion, for the positive things they believe in, under the pretext that all of this somehow bothers them. What's bothering them? Do they really bother them? It bothers them that there are people who simply want to live. Do people who want to live, people who want to develop and create other conditions, bother them? They have their world, their own world. But it still bothers these pro-Nazis who are mainly based in Russia. The disciples of that ideology are also present in Denmark, Germany, France, elsewhere in Europe, and in the United States. But in fact, their headquarters, RACIRS, is in Russia. And to my great regret, some of them, allegedly naive, pretend to be innocent, quiet, but still waters run deep. Therefore, they rise through the ranks, reaching key positions and critical roles within the Russian government. There they succeed in carrying out their plans to support the elimination of people and the eradication of cults and religious groups for their religion, for their beliefs, anything that makes a small community unique, that bothers them. They don't want it. They want to eliminate, want to kill completely. Take Iraq, for example. Remember what happened to the Yazidis? 600,000 Yazidi men were slaughtered, burned, and shot in cold blood. And not only that, their women and daughters were taken and sold at the slave market in Baghdad. No one wants to believe it, but there are still photos to this day. This didn't happen 200 or 300 years ago. It happened yesterday, the day before. It happened less than 10 years ago. This is something terrible. A threat to our humanity and to the existence of small, unique religions and groups. Take, for instance, the Druze, who are currently in a dire situation in Syria. They are persecuted, killed, oppressed everywhere, and constantly face problems. All of these evil inspirations come from the same Nazi-like ideology, from the same body, the same organization that has existed for 30 years now. So, this entire negative force, the most harmful one, targets human beings, and it is also supported by the Russian Orthodox Church. This in itself is extremely dangerous for humanity. After all, our world is like an olive tree. First, it offers shade. Second, it bears fruit. Third, birds, animals, and people alike can make use of it and enjoy its presence, not only because of its beauty, but because of what it offers us. And the whole world must look at the greenery of the olive tree, so that our entire world becomes green, a world full of beautiful, good life. According to many studies I've read, dozens of them, humanity on the whole occupies only about 5% of the landmass of our planet. 95% of our landmass is uninhabited. No cities, no people, no villages, nothing. Maybe a few roads that people pass through, yes, and deserts. But there are no human beings living in those deserts. So if we want to transform our world and save it from becoming one vast, dry desert, we must first begin with human beings. A human who wants to kill, eliminate, and destroy others, people, religious movements, and communities. They must be dealt with. Maybe they are mentally ill and need psychiatric treatment of some kind. Maybe they're backed by financial sponsors. Then the sources of that funding reaching them must be cut off. Take the Druze in Syria, for example. They are suffering in horrifying, unbearable ways at the hands of those Islamic fundamentalists who claim to be messengers of God sent to establish a new world order. They say they must cleanse our world of all these infidels. By the way, the so-called infidels are not just the Druze, it's also you. Because in their eyes, anyone who is not a Muslim is an infidel. But that's not written anywhere, not in the Quran, not in any other source. The main problem of these people lies in their mindset. They seek to destroy, to interfere, and ruin other people's lives. They are incapable of accepting or understanding someone who holds a different opinion or has a different worldview. They are simply narrow-minded people, lacking wisdom and unable to keep up with the modern world. Today, we are living through a difficult time. We are at a critical point. If the issues we raise, such as Nazism, the magma plume in the heart of Siberia, and a few other important matters we'll discuss later, are not addressed, we will cease to be us. What does us mean? Us is just a small speck in the world, but the entire world will face a severe crisis. For example, If this magma in Siberia erupts, it's about 6,000 kilometers from Israel. We'll feel the eruption's impact here in our country within a week to 10 days. God forbid that ever happens. God forbid truly. But if it does erupt, it'll reach us in Israel in 7 to 10 days. So we need a solution. What should we do? How should we act? Walter Kuenneth implanted the idea into Hitler about what to do with the Jews, and we all know the outcome of it. We must never go back there again. Never again. What happened on October 7th, for example, reminded us a bit of what was done to the people of Israel, to the Jews in Europe. And once again, we said it, we declared it, never again. We have to stay vigilant, stand watch, not alone, together. Anyone who obstructs humanity's right to live, develop, and progress because of outdated prejudices, he is trailing behind the rest of humanity by not some 500 regular years, but 500 light years. Such people have no place in our world. We can't stay silent anymore. We can't let others stay silent. We have to speak up. We have to raise these issues. We have to speak out. As human beings, we want humane solutions. Like I said, maybe these people need psychiatric treatment. These are sick people. Anyone who wants to kill an innocent person, someone who has done nothing bad in this world, might be mentally ill and need to be treated. We need to move in that direction because we are human beings. And as long as we have humaneness, we have a responsibility. We must find solutions because in 10 years, we will have no solutions. Once this idea takes root and becomes ingrained deep in people's hearts, take Dvorkin, for example, the head of the RACIRS in Russia. He learned from the followers of Hitler, may his name be erased and his memory fade, who in turn drew ideas from Walter Kuenneth. And now Dvorkin is creating cells all over the world to expand his influence. Some of his people have even made it into key positions of power in Russia. And the war in Ukraine, it's not because someone decided that Americans were influencing something, or because Zelensky wanted to align with the West or the East. No. That's bullshit. That's just a narrative for the media. To talk, write, and fill the pages of newspapers and websites. But at its core, this whole story started because they want to wipe out the people who live inside Ukraine. And to the Russians, who number over 140 million, people living in Ukraine are seen as just a small group, like a tiny cult they believe needs to be destroyed. By the way, they even carried out displacement of the population. Millions of Russians are being moved to live in the villages and settlements of Ukraine to prove that this land belongs to them and to try to take control of Ukraine. And people, we even saw it in the media. They just completely relocated everything, entire neighborhoods, entire cities to other places. And this has harmed the country, harmed Ukrainian society, harmed its progress, and affected so many things. It's true that Russia also suffered many casualties. Many soldiers were killed, and they lost a lot of resources. But the current situation continues to threaten an entire nation. Threatens with the destruction of an entire nation that might cease to exist. The same story is also playing out in Iraq against small communities and tribes. And these people who are fighting against the communities, because these communities bother them, they just brand them with all sorts of labels and make extremely negative accusations. They might even accuse them of raping women or say their religion is wrong, that the way they worship God is wrong. One demonization after another. They can say they're thieves or create a completely negative picture around them so they'll have a case, an excuse to come and eliminate them. Eliminate them. That is, to kill from the youngest to the oldest, without distinguishing between women, children, men, everyone, all of them. And that's deeply tragic. We can see what happened in Africa, in Central Africa, the current crisis in Sudan, the factions fighting each other there. And all of this stems from the same ideas and concepts that came from Nazism. These ideas have spread and are being learned and now even taught in academia all over the world, just so this mindset could spread even further and attract as many adherents as possible. And this is dangerous in itself, very dangerous for humanity. And we must stop these people and hold them accountable. Let's take our organization, ALLATRA, for example. Our members, our activists in Ukraine were arrested. By the way, Russia is the only country where ALLATRA has no representatives because they were simply imprisoned and no one knows where they are. And it's only in Russia. In all the other places in Europe, in every other country, our organization is active, functioning, and present. There are people who are joining and supporting the organization, and we will continue doing this right, clean, and good work, always. Because only in this way can we save our world. There is no other way that I know of. Silence is good for other things. Inaction is fine when it's time to rest. But to stay silent in the face of genocide, to stay silent about the murder of religious groups, to stay silent about the murder of children and women in this world, none of us should stay silent. We must raise the issue, bring it to the surface. And all those who are stirring up trouble against cults, against religious communities, against small peoples, they will face our counteraction. They will find us standing against them everywhere. We will spread and present the problem to all nations, and especially to the United Nations, which has great power. They have resources, they have an army, and weapons. They must intervene in certain cases. It's not enough to just say, we're doing something, and that's it. We need the involvement of people with power and authority at the international leadership level so that we can solve problems and solve this one. Dvorkin will continue doing what he does, spreading this evil, unless someone steps in to stop him. Unless someone comes forward and tells him, you're wrong. But as long as no one has pointed out their mistakes and their crimes, what they are doing to us and to humanity, we must continue to fight. People must fight for their freedom, for their rights. Because it's wonderful to live in freedom and in liberty when all the religious groups live in freedom and liberty, when they are their own masters. However, now they may face threat to their lives from those factions or individuals who wage war against religious communities or minorities. There's a woman in Ukraine named Irina Kremenovska. So she went after activists from our organization and sued them. She filed complaints against them, claiming they are enemies of Ukraine, enemies of the Ukrainian people. But how, for heaven's sake, how do people fail to see the connection between things? This Irina, she is simply a traitor to the Ukrainian people. She is a traitor. Why? Because she's the one helping and assisting Alexander Dvorkin with everything he wants to do. They started brainwashing students in schools and in universities by giving lectures. They implant their ideas into them to build a large army of people who will be just like them and who will think like them. Sadly, it all started with sadism, dog killing, and animal abuse. And all of this led them to a new kind of idea, killing human beings and causing harm to religious groups and other nations they can't control. And this whole thing has direct links to Dvorkin, who is directing them from Russia, guiding them to carry out these actions around the world against all cults, small nations, and small religious groups, so they can take over the entire world. Because those people get in their way. If there's a small group like the Druze in Syria or in Israel or somewhere else, or a small nation like the people of Israel, they simply bother them. The last thing I want to say, I heard this yesterday from a young Sunni man from Syria. He said, "Stop the war against the Druze." Someone asked him, "Why do you say that?" He replied, "I can't explain it to you, where it comes from or why, but I feel it. Unless the war against the Druze stops, 20 million Sunni Syrians will be wiped out. What's the reason? The reason is spirit and soul. The reason is God, the one who protects the world and the universe. Each of us must see ourselves as a messenger of goodness, a messenger of light against the forces of darkness that surround us. We must be as active as possible in uprooting them. And if we can't eradicate all the Nazis, then at the very least we must minimize their power, their positions in the world, and reduce the force with which they can harm us, those who stand for the light. We all want good for this world. We all strive for progress, for a time to come that is truly, truly good. When peace reigns across the earth, when brotherhood, freedom, equality, and the joy of life are shared among us. We were not born to die. Up until our final breath, we must do everything in our power to save our world from those who wish to harm it, destroy it, and wipe it out. By the way, the people of Israel is a small people. What are 20 million people? That's almost nothing. What is it? It's like Tokyo in Japan. Tokyo is even bigger than our entire population. There are 20 million people just there, and even that's just part of Tokyo. It's bigger than the whole Jewish people worldwide. So this people bothers those who think differently, who don't understand us, who can't tolerate us, who can't grasp the strength and the spirit in the soul of this people, the Jewish people, the people of Israel. That's why we're constantly getting hit by all their actions. We're attacked from the right and the left, from behind. And they do it all under the guise of culture, with the backing of certain figures who put on a nice face, while deep down they harbor a great evil, a satanic force that wants to wipe out humanity. That's the problem. We sincerely hope that people all over the world will rise up against this, because its hand does not spare the head of a single person on this planet. They want to wipe out at least 2/3 of the world's population so they can be left alone at the top. And once they finish off 2/3, they'll turn on the final third too. It's always another round. Who's good, who's not good, even within that remaining third, which includes their own so-called allies who share this ideology. That's why we're in an extremely dangerous moment that requires urgent attention. We're calling for action. Again and again, I say it publicly. This is not something one nation or one leader can handle all alone. This requires the participation of all the nations of the world, all the world's leadership. We must educate new generations to embrace peace, understanding, love, and the pursuit of doing good. When I was in the Scouts, they used to teach us to do one good deed a day, like help an old person, a school kid, someone in need. At least one good deed. And today, I truly understand what that meant. How many good things can you actually do in a day, not just one? We were taught to start with one, but today, every step we take should be a good deed. Every interaction we have on the street could be a small act of kindness, whether it's feeding someone, helping them, supporting them in their pain or weakness. But those people I mentioned earlier with RACIRS organization, That is a deeply destructive organization. Their actions are working against all of humanity. I truly hope that our strength will prevail. The power of light, the power of enlightened people, kind people, good-hearted souls who love life, who love the world and human beings in general. Let that power overcome these evil forces which must be driven out and cast away from our world. Thank you all very much.